Hello, everybody. My name is Frans Cronje, and I work for South Africa.
So go down to, you can hit stop recording. Just so
Is it?
Hello, everybody. My name is Frans Cronje, and I work for South Africa's Institute of Race Relations, which is a storied classical liberal think tank approaching its centenary in Africa. And what I'm going to do in the next 30 minutes or so is I'm going to host two of my African colleagues, one based in Uganda, the other based in Nigeria. And we're going to do something we don't do often enough. We're not going to talk about the challenges faced by the liberty movement on the continent or across the world, but we're going to talk about the successes and the rewards of what we do. It's almost 20 years ago to the day that the Economist newspaper ran its infamous front page of Africa as the hopeless continent. And I don't think it was true then, and I don't think it's true now. Africa is in many respects making great progress, as is the world. The number of years that a child spends in school in Africa is utterly out of proportion with what the case was 30 or 40 years ago. The number of African governments that change hands violently is way down relative to what the case was in the first 2 or 3 decades after the end of colonial rule. The number of Africans who are urbanizing and able to spend a few dollars a day, collectively, if you project them out over the next 20 or 30 years, create one of the most exciting consumer markets anywhere in the world. And the number of megawatts of electricity that Africa is producing is escalating very quickly. And perhaps most significant, I think, for the conversation we're going to have now, is that the number of dollars of trade that flow into the continent have long ago broken through the number of dollars of aid that are passed into the continent. And part of the reason for this progress is the work of the liberty movement on the continent itself. And there are gems in that movement, and I want to highlight 2 of them with us today. I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves in a moment. They'll tell you who they are, where they come from, and what they do. And once they're done with that, I'm going to fire a few questions at them about what makes their work so rewarding, what their greatest successes have been, and what you can learn about the successes of the African liberty movement on the continent. Let's start. We've got John Mugabe with us. He's in Entebbe in Uganda. John, hi. Introduce yourself, tell us who you work for, what you do, and then I'll move across to our colleague Emeka. John, over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Frans. Mugabe John Socrates is my name. I'm the founder of Student for Liberty Uganda. That was 2014. Then in 2016, I graduated after university, I formed Action for Liberty and Economic Development, a libertarian think tank, which aims at promoting a free and prosperous society with the aspect of entrepreneurship and individual liberty. I'm working as the co-founder now, as also the executive director. We promote libertarian policy, or what we call free market policy also. And our major aim is to see that Uganda becomes one of the most prosperous countries in Africa and the example. Thank you.
Mugabe, John, thank you. Let's go to Emeka. Emeka, tell us a little bit about you, what you do, where you work. We had a pre-call with you about a week or so ago, and I wish we'd recorded that, because you told us a bit about your operations and where you are, and that you sometimes even operate in the very difficult north of Nigeria, which I think offers challenges that very few partners in the global liberty movement will ever encounter. Emeka, over to you.
Thank you, Franz. My name is Chukwuemeka Ezugo, and I am the co-founder and president of GACLI Nigeria. So our operations are mostly in the north of Nigeria, and yeah, just like you said, it is a very challenging one, because in northern Nigeria there are 19 states, but right now I am able to move to just 5 of these states, because the rest are overtaken by Boko Haram and recently ISWAP terrorist groups. So it is a very challenging terrain to work in, but my passion for promoting the ideas of liberty keep taking me back. We can't abandon these youth and students in this crisis area because of what is happening over there. And yeah, my organization promotes the idea of a free society. When we talk about the rule of law and freedom of movement, individual liberty, religious tolerance, and cooperation, which is one of the major issues in northern Nigeria. I worked with Students for Liberty as the African Programs Associate, where I helped to develop an Afrocentric curriculum on how to train our local coordinators in Africa before I started GACLI. And recently we were able to translate one of Free Market's publication, Foundations for a Free Society, into the West African language of Hausa, which is the language of northern Nigeria. So this will help us more in our activities to raise more students and introduce them to the ideas of liberty and free market solutions to our problems in Nigeria at the moment. So yeah, that is what we've been doing in Nigeria.
Emeka, if I stay with you for the moment, if you have to look back at your time and what you've done and where you've done it, and we're going to ignore the challenges and the obstacles this evening, the greatest successes that you've achieved, where you've changed people's lives, where you've been able to guide communities or policymakers or politicians in Nigeria in a better direction. Why don't you share some of those stories with us?
So actually, before this present administration in Nigeria, we've had a more liberal Nigeria actually, and we've been talking about free market ideas and all that. So, but it was as if, these people are not telling us anything. But recently, with the current situation in Nigeria, we are having a kind of I told you so moment. So the situation in Nigeria actually has helped us to further promote the ideas we are, free market ideas to societal problems. And our success recently is having a network of young people across these 5 states in northern Nigeria who ordinarily before didn't know about these ideas. They have been more socialist according to our academic system, but now they are seeing things from a different perspective. And they believe that Nigeria can be better. They believe that things can be done differently than they've been done before. They now believe that government is not only the problem, the solution to our problem, but individuals also used like them can contribute to a better Nigeria. So we have been able to change the climate of ideas over the years. And we have youths and students who are more liberal, who are more open-minded, who think freely than they used to. So that is one of the achievements. Also, we've been able to bridge the gap between Christians and Muslims, because in northern Nigeria, Christians are in the minority, and the Boko Haram terrorists and other radical Islamic groups have used religion to foment problems between the Christians and the traditionalists and the Muslims. So, but since we started our programs, we are able to bring together youths from different backgrounds, religious, ethnic, tribal backgrounds, who come together, carry out activities that help them to foster peace in their communities. And we are also able to link them to youth in other northern states. So they know that, yes, they are not alone, and whatever is achievable in their states can also be done in other states. So there is this network of youths in northern Nigeria working together to achieve a free and prosperous Nigeria.
I've got to tell you that Emeka has been very modest this evening, because he's understated the kind of environment that he operates in. I know a little bit about that environment, not as much as he does, but I must tell you, the ability to build youth networks that value liberal, classically liberal ideas and freedom ideas in an environment as tough as that. Emeka, enormous respect. It's extraordinary what you achieve. I sometimes feel where I operate out of, that some of my young interns would think that running out of copier paper is a crisis. But I think where you operate, you're a great inspiration. And I'm going to come back to you in a minute. Before that, Mugabe, same question to you. Uganda's got a tough history. You could hardly call it a history of where the freedom of the human spirit was prioritized in any great way. Your organization and the work you've done there, what are the greatest successes that you have achieved?
Thank you very much, Franz. As you've said, Uganda has got a lot of history since 1962, when Uganda got its independence. Immediately, the struggle, like anywhere in Africa and most of the country, the post-colonial chaos of power transition and fighting for power, ethnicity came in 1962. But we also realize, when you look at Uganda after independence, that's where its mess started from, when Uganda adopted a policy called Move to the Left, where socialism took over from Cuba, from every country like Cuba, and then we adopted here by the likes of Obote and his friend Nyerere, who pushed for socialism. And this is where the mess started, where the political leaders, the people who were in power, started wanting to control everything, starting from resources, education, and the economy. So power started moving within the people. And if you look at also the education system, it was a bit determined by the people who were in power, the ideology. It was about indoctrination. And that's where we form our work, and that's where we drive our work as a think tank, as the libertarians. We've been able to move to the various universities. Right now, we have been working at making at least all the 25 chapters we managed to help in establishing in various universities, be able to discuss about the idea, to be able to influence the climate of ideas at campus, because we've been having these professors who came from a socialist background, and what they've been doing is to indoctrinate. And you realize that the generation which has been coming every now and then, it has been believing that to live a good life, you must either work with government or you must obey the government to be in place. But we've been able to go to various institutions and introduce topics of freedom. How do we get freedom? And people have been able to get various books, including the Ayn Rand, including how other countries managed to move from the same situation we were to other situation, and then also believing that our country will be able to attain good life with bringing in a new force or a new government. We've been able to tell many young people that, you see, every regime has been using you to get into power as child soldiers. But now, how do we build a good society? A good society starts from people being free. And they must also understand the institutions which give this country the freedom, the rule of law, and also the free market. If you look at our history, property right is one of the institutions which has been abused. But the last 2 years, we managed even to print out small booklets and be able to share with not only the students, but also the local councillors, who in return have been able to appreciate that when an individual is free to own his land and be able to transfer it to either his son or sell it, then that's the country which you want. And that's how he's able to know that this is my effort and this is what I worked for. So I see one of our great successes has been also people appreciating the institution of property rights.
Mugabe, as you're talking, I'm thinking about youngsters in the Western world on university campuses in free countries. And Mugabe was very modest as well. He said that Uganda's had a tough history. Pre-68, post-68, if you were born into a Western society, a liberal democracy, you ain't got no idea of what Ugandans went through and how terrifying it was for them and how stunting and stultifying and poverty-inducing. Then you hear stories about pro-liberty activists in Uganda today building networks on university campuses, lobbying governments against increases in taxation. And it just jars so heavily against what we see coming out of parts of the Western world that the example of the liberty movement in Africa starts becoming even more important. I'm going to stay with you, Mugabe, for the next question. And that's you can be as personal as you want to. You can sort of deflect the question. But I know a lot of people who do this kind of thing, and I know they don't do it for the money and they don't do it for the fame. Why do you do it? Why did you decide that this is what you were going to dedicate your life to? Why is this the thing that makes you get out of bed in the morning?
Yeah. Thank you very much for that wonderful question. Yeah. Why do I do this? I was born and I've been living in a country where there is the history which we have. It's about the history of bloodshed, wars, and people killing each other. But also I've grown up in a country where poverty is a song of the day, it's the national anthem. And amidst that, we've been having leaders who have great intentions, but then when you look at the outcome, there is nothing being achieved. And I will let you know that before becoming, I was a libertarian, but before joining the movement very well, this is how I used to think. I remember in 2014, I was a university guild president, the student president. But then I was voted, I think, because I used so much to be a strong activist in Uganda, student activist. And even one time I tried to mobilize many universities to see that in 2011, to see that we get the government out non-violently or in a peaceful demonstration. And it made me very popular, though I got arrested, tortured, and almost was about to be killed. But when I got out, I got an opportunity of becoming a student leader. And all in my thinking, I was that when you have an opportunity to lead a country or to lead a certain institution, you are able to do good for the people. You are able to change their lives. You are able to create any kind of opportunities they want. And when I became a student leader of that great institution, I used so much to find hard that students get what they want. But in the end, I realized there is a big system. There is a system, even if you come with a good intention and you want to serve, it's very powerful because it has people who believe in privileges and incentives. Then it gave me a change that it is hard to change a country as a politician. The best way to change a country is to see that people are able to pursue what they want. And as I was into that, I got an opportunity of one great libertarian, Adidayo, who Emeka knows very well, visited our university and he was told that the best activist you can meet in this country is Mugabe. He came, he organized a meeting. This is where the story started from. And in a meeting, he asked, who is a socialist and who is a capitalist? All of us in the class, we said, no, we are socialists because these are good people. They have good hearts, they wish people good. And I remember he said, okay, that's great, you're socialist, but see our university. You have asbestos of 1962. You pay a lot of money, but you know what? You think there is someone who is going to work on it. And I said, compare with the private universities you have in this country. And when you compared the private university, you could see that they had good infrastructure, they had good lecturers, they could not strike like how we used to strike and demonstrate. But then he left me with a book, The Road to Serfdom, and The Road to Serfdom by Hayek. I started reading that book, and it talked about having a dream as a good person and wanting to go into power to change lives, how it could be hard and how it is hard for good people to raise and lead the country. It may be hard. But then he talked also about the central planning, which I believed in as a socialist student before. And he said that the problem is that people form groups and they have own selfish interests, but they romanticize it and then they sell it to the people and say, we are going to be the good life giver. We are going to change everything. So that book changed my thinking from fighting hard to become a politician or a president of Uganda one day to a person who is going to fight for freedom, to fight to see that we have institutions which safeguard rule of law. We have institutions which will enable people to have property rights, and institution of civil societies where everyone is able to do whatever he wants as long as it does not infringe on the other, it does not steal. So I realized that it would be worthy to dedicate my effort to the libertarian movement, also fighting for freedom, because people are born with, Ugandans have qualities, they have talent, they have gifts, and they have also special skills, which only need an environment which will enable them to find value and then sell it to the other. Rather than getting a group, a politabulo, we form and we collect resources and then say, go and get this Medicare, go and get good education. So it changed my mind, and then I realized that I was a true libertarian now, and what I have to dedicate my life to is to see that my society enjoys freedom and people are able to find rule of law in court, and also the government limited to sovereignty and also making sure that people's rights are protected. So France, that's how I ended up and committed to this work, which I do. Thank you.
You know, Mugabe, I didn't want to stop you there, and I'm glad we got that on camera, because that was a hell of a speech, my brother. That was a hell of a speech. Something else that you notice when you speak to the Africa Liberty Movement is you'll come across people who have really suffered, physically suffered, under real draconian systems. And when you talk to them, they don't talk about that unless you press them. They talk in the main about the future and they look towards it. And you can juxtapose that against the sort of elements of the snowflake culture of the left-wing Western world that play up gripes and perceived slights and abuses. Compare that to what you hear from a gentleman like this, get a whole new perspective on why the Global Liberty Network is so very important. Emeka, I'm coming to you again. You operate in a tough part of the world, so tough that I would say that getting up in the morning and going to work, particularly if you're in the north, your physical safety would be a real question mark, kidnapping and the like, and even worse. And you've chosen to make this your life. And why have you done that? And what is it that drives you to get out of bed every morning?
Okay, so I am from southern Nigeria, where it was relatively peaceful. We didn't have issue of terrorists then. Back then it was relatively peaceful, and working with Students for Liberty also, our focus mostly was in the south of Nigeria, where it was more safer to have this kind of events without having issues with locals or with authorities, or having to, run at the risk of being attacked by terrorists and all that. Then, eventually I had a meeting with some youths from northern Nigeria who came to the capital city, Abuja. And I was a speaker at one of their events where I spoke on religious tolerance and cooperation between Christians and Muslims and how we can move forward in Nigeria. So after the event, they came to me and pleaded with me to come to the north and speak There are many youths who would love to hear me speak, who would love to see things from my perspective as a libertarian. You know, I was afraid because the stories we hear down south are different. You know, we hear of kidnappings, of killings, of bomb attacks, and you know, nobody wanted to go to the north. I didn't want to the north. You know, I didn't want to go to the north, but after a year of persistent pleading and asking, I summoned up courage and I wrote to Network for a Free Society UK, and I was given the funds, and I went to Maiduguri, Borno State, which is actually the seat, you know, the hotbed of Boko Haram activities. I was afraid. I had a one-day event with youths over there, students of the University of Maiduguri, and it was very rewarding because then I discovered that, you know, nobody wanted to go to these areas. So they were mostly abandoned to their faith. Nobody was teaching them or was telling them how to handle such issues, you know, counter-terrorism issues from a free market point of view. Nobody taught them about the rule of law, about tolerance, about individual liberty, and all that. So you have most youths being radicalized by Boko Haram through their teachings, and they are taught, you know, it's okay to kill infidels. You know, anyone who is not a Muslim is an infidel, deserves to be killed. And so you have more youths becoming radicalized with promises and promises. And so, but when we moved into these states, to Maiduguri and other northern states, you know, you discover that people are beginning to think otherwise. They are beginning to see things from a different perspective. Boko Haram recently have found it difficult to recruit locals. You know, we have them recruiting people from outside of Nigeria, like Mali, Chad, and other neighboring, you know, countries where definitely they are not, you know, educated or enlightened about, you know, tolerance and living together. So in our last event in February, actually, days before the event, there was an attack in the city. A bomb went off and scores were killed. I was going to cancel the event, but they pleaded with me not to. I sent the information to some of our partners. Atlas Network also funded this event back in February with Network for a Free Society. So during the event, there were Air Force jets, you know, on patrol around the city. There were helicopters. So it was like a war zone. And these people were moving around like, you know, it has become part of their reality. And I was scared because I didn't know what was going to happen. Sometimes these people attack, they go back, they, you know, recoup and come back for another attack. So it was scary, but the fact that these people, these students have the mind to come out, you know, they have the willingness to learn, the willingness to be a part of this new change.
It's such incredible lessons in that, I think, for the global liberty movement. And that's where I'm going to go, because time, gentlemen, is catching up to us, and we still need to go to questions. So I've got one question for each of you, and for Odette, who I see might have joined us from Cameroon. I don't see you on your camera yet, Odette. If you have a camera, you can put it on. I'm going to put this question to you as well, if you're able to answer it. And that is not for the African liberty movement, but for the global liberty movement. And briefly, what are the top lessons that have come out of your experience of driving pro-liberty ideas in such difficult climates? I'll start with you, Mugabe, then I'll go to you, Emeka, and I've lost Odette again. She's disappeared. I'll end with you, Emeka. I'll wrap it up quickly, and then we're going to go to questions. Mugabe, the lessons for the global liberty movement that they can learn from your experience in Uganda.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Franz. Yeah, there are lessons for the global movement to pick from Uganda. And one of it is to understand that it's ideas which win. that the ideas are very powerful to win. I would say when we are starting the student movement and also all our advocacy and also free speech at campus, at first, students who were so much into activism wanted to just attack, go to street, pull up placards, and then there was no opportunity for even the leaders to hear from them. It was confrontation. But the liberty movement in Uganda adopted thinking and also believing that ideas are the more powerful weapon. They can change everything. And when we went to ideas, we found ourselves eliminating the number of arrests, a few people, because first of all, the state could undermine ideas when you discuss with people. But later they could also find a peak, there is something which can touch them. And then we realized that we are getting debates with our leaders, who some of them used to arrest us. And then guess what? Some of our students, graduate, have been picked as advisors of some politician, and some are also working in the policy department in different advocacy, different organizations, but also some who have joined the media, but they're still having their inclination of having a free society and also being libertarian.
Mugabe, thank you. I've run into time, I'm sure, but I didn't stop it, and I'm not going to stop it because this stuff needs to be heard. And I'm very sure my Atlas hosts agree. I'm going to give me a little leeway on the time, but Emeka is going to help me catch up on time so that we can go to questions. Emeka, very briefly, the lessons that the global liberty movement can learn from what you have learned and what you've achieved in Nigeria.
So I think the lesson we can learn is that nobody's above knowledge, right? Sometimes we think, well, some people may think these people don't deserve this, these people, they're already set in their ways. Like a lot of people think about northern Nigeria, they believe they're already set in their ways, there's nothing you can do. So that kind of discourages them from, moving forward or taking a bold step. Like when these guys approached me, I thought, what do I have to teach them? They believe in this and that. They may not really accept what I'm going to say, my ideas, but eventually I took the step and I discovered that there is a lot of hunger. A lot of people really want to hear these ideas. And secondly, initially when we started the free market idea, liberty movement in Africa, it was like we were just pouring water on stone because Nigeria was relatively liberal at that time. Things were moving smoothly, but we didn't know that these ideas were going to play out where, we're going to see the result of all our hard work now. The current government of Nigeria is a very socialist government. The president has made it clear he's a socialist. He believes in social welfare. And actually, his campaign rode on the promises of social welfare and other promising stipend for unemployed youths and creating jobs out of thin air. But now Nigerians have seen that that is not the case. And entrepreneurship, the rule of law, free markets is the best way forward, right? So the lesson there is that you may think you're not making impact now, but eventually you will discover that what you're doing is actually helping to change lives. So a lot of people are becoming more free markets, minded, libertarian than they used to. So our efforts over time is paying off. So everybody should keep doing what they're doing. Do not give up. Every idea has its time, and definitely you'll be heard. You make impact when you even least think you're making impact. So
I think that's exactly it, Emeka. Our little byline at the Institute has always been the power of ideas. I'm going to wrap it in one comment, and then we're going to go to questions. And that comment is this, came to me as I was listening to this stuff. Next time someone tells you that the global freedom movement or libertarianism or classical liberalism is some kind of alt-right, right-wing manifestation, send them this clip or send them to go and talk to one of these two gentlemen, and I think that you will change their minds. With that, we're going to questions. Fire them away, put them to me, and I will pass them on to our two guests. Hello, everybody. You're back live with us again, and it was our intention that we would now go to questions. And you saw in that pre-record of a couple of evenings ago that we almost had a debt, and then we lost her. But I'm very pleased to tell you that we have her with us today. So what we're going to do very quickly is I'm going to send some of those same questions to Odette. She's going to answer them, and then we're going to open it up to questions to all three of our guests. Odette, going to you. Quickly, what is it that you do? Where in the world do you do it? And while you're on that, what are the great successes that you have achieved?
All right, thank you very much, Frank. I'm Odette Kibu. I work with the Carrefour Policy Institute here at the Denis Sandenera Forotia Foundation in Cameroon. And one mission as an institute is to ensure that we propose insightful policy recommendations that are based on evidence. And when we propose these policies, our objectives at the end of the day is that we promote liberty, we are able to advance our economies. And what we do at Carrefour, we do a lot of activities, and we come from different backgrounds. We have the health sector, which is focused on research, health policy research program. We have the Economic Affairs Division that is focused on the aspect of economics. We also have the governance and the democracy and the peace and security. So these are the different divisions that we do here at the Carrefour Policy Institute. And doing this activity, putting ourselves in these different divisions, we want to promote liberty, and we come out with insightful policy recommendations, which is our mission. Writing insightful policy papers, organizing events where we bring together on the table different policymakers, the media, to be able to communicate the activities that we do. A lot of activities that we are focused on is also to make sure that we don't keep our policy papers, we don't keep our policy recommendations in our cupboards, but we ensure that all these policies reach the level of the policymakers, of the different stakeholders. And that's why we do a lot of advocacy activities here at the Institute, making sure that what we have proposed, the policymakers, they are able to take it into consideration, they are able to implement it to ensure that there is that economic freedom here in Cameroon, and why not in Africa at large. And you asked the question, Frank, on one of our greatest achievements. If you notice right now, this is the era of COVID. And when it started in Cameroon in March 2020, immediately the Institute established the COVID task force, which has done a lot of activities, and it is still going. So we were able to establish that task force to make sure that we work hand in glove with the government to be able to curb the pandemic and ensure that we protect the individual liberties of Cameroonians. And we have done a lot of activities, sensitizing our communities, proposing insightful policies that the government can use, especially in these very hard times that the economy is facing a lot of recession. And during our activities, we had a very big achievement in the sense that we were able to propose the aspect of transparency and accountability, which is a very, very important aspect that the government needs to put in place in order to curb this pandemic. And we had to propose this policy to the government, making sure that they implement it. And with that, we're very excited that the government took this policy into implemented this policy, and they were able to go again to launch a process where they were able to audit their funds. And recently, some ministers they're currently investigating some ministers right now because of embezzlement and things like that. So, and even the government, because of this accountability, the president was able to make sure that there is clear accountability, and the government was able to go back to the IMF to ask for another loan. So that's just one of the achievements that we have recorded this year. And I want to also talk about what we have done so far. We have this issue of taxes that is affecting a lot of business holders, business sectors in the country. The taxes are too high that the social innovation cannot really advance in the economy. The economic freedom is really hindered. And so we at the CAFO Policy Institute, we are able to propose these policies to the government, tell them, okay, your taxes are too high. This is how you have to amend your budget to be able to ensure that the businessman out there is able to run his or her business without any issues. And so we're able to bring out this policy in the form of a fiscal letter, which we submitted to the Prime Minister, and he actually accepted this very great recommendation. And we are hopeful that all our recommendations will be implemented to ensure that there is economic sustainability and the business sector can really, really advance. So Frank, that is some of the achievements. There are a lot of achievements we have done, but I'll just stop here for now. And
tell me, you got 1 minute. Why do you do it? Why? What makes you get out of bed in the morning?
A lot. I live in a society where there is a lot of dictatorship, and the poverty line is really, really low here in Cameroon. And with a weak rule of law, the restrictions on trade, we can't really advance. That freedom is not really there. A poor mother there in the village cannot really access healthcare the way she is supposed to. And so I really, growing up in the rural areas, I saw how it is really difficult. The financial burden accessing healthcare, it's really high. And so when I came in contact with Atlas, with the CAFO Policy Institute and the Students for Liberty, I understood that this is what we are supposed to be doing. And so it gets me up every morning to be able to ensure that I'm able to give liberty, I'm able to give the freedom that a person, somebody in my society really deserve it. So when the government see us, CSOs as threats, it really gets me, annoyed, and I'm like, no, this is what I really need to get out there and do it and make sure that my economy really advances.
Ed, thanks. What we're doing now is we're going to go to the floor and open it up to all of you. If you want to ask a question, I'll put it to the panelists. You can put it into the chat. You can raise your hand. I'll see that. And while you think of your questions, I've got one in the chat already. It's directed at Emeka, and might put it to some others as well. And I'll do part of it for you because it's long. What books, Emeka, what media are the most useful to you?
Thank you, Franz, and to all our listeners. So because of the area I operate in, Northern Nigeria is a very religious society. And one thing I've discovered is that religion works so well with socialism. So the education system in Nigeria is patterned along socialist lines, and it's been like that since after Nigerian independence, because after independence, the third colonialism has a lot to do with capitalism, therefore it's bad. And you have these socialist ideas, and most African countries are founded on socialist ideas. So what I'm doing is basically to introduce them gradually to these ideas for free society, the rule of law, free markets, and all that. And we've used the CDs from Network for a Free Society UK. The CDs are titled Ideas for a Free Society. So we pick texts from these CDs and break them down and turn them into PowerPoint presentations and explain these ideas to them because they're really simple. So we've had a lot of them shipped down to us in Nigeria from Network for a Free Society. So, and recently we translated the book by Eamon Butler, Foundations of a Free Society, which is more in-depth than the CDs from Network for Free Society. So also it talks about all these ideas in a more in-depth manner. So we are basically grooming our students, our youths, to move from one level to the other, so they can break away from that traditional socialist way of thinking and teaching, which is prevalent in Nigeria. We are working towards
I'm going to cut you off, which is very rude, but I want to do it because there are more questions coming into this chat, and we've got a stop in 5 minutes time, and I want to get through as many questions as possible.
So basically, I look out for materials that are not so that are very simple for to introduce our youth to ideas for a free society, and also encourage them to take part in activities that will bring them together to see how they can practicalize these ideas.
Emeka, thanks. I did cut you off abruptly, but I want to get to the next one because it's important. Then I've got another one that I still want to get to after that. I'm going to go to John. John, what do you do if young people and students don't buy your message? What are the strategies and tactics that Liberty groups can use in that case?
Yeah, thank you very much, Franz. Yeah, first of all, our work will deal with many students and also believe in ideas, because we are libertarians and we advocate for freedom. We don't enforce any idea. And we believe a good idea does not need to be enforced on someone. But what we do, we create a forum which become more interesting and free for every youth to raise what he or she knows and even also find out. So what we do, we organize debates, but these debates are not built on are not structured that there is someone who knows much. We believe that knowledge can be shared and knowledge can be discovered at every time. So we make sure our symposium, our debates, and our kind of talks we do have with young people are open to any idea, as long as they preserve the dignity and the human right of the other. That's what we do. And it has been more interesting to the youth of this country to be part of such a discussion, because they discover more and then they also find tolerance in it. Thank you.
Okay, Odette, you're next up. When you face a difficult government or tyrannical government, what are the lessons that think tanks can use to thrive under such tough circumstances?
All right, thank you very much, Frank. It's true the government see think tanks like threats to their government, but I want to share this on what we do at CAFU as one of our strategies. We need to work closely with the government. We don't want the government to impose on us, but at the same time, we are able to bring the policies to them, work hand in glove with them and tell them, hey, Mr. Minister, what you are doing, this is how you should do it. But if you work in isolation, I bet you will not get those policies approved or implemented. So what I encourage think tanks around the world in Africa is that go closely to the government and make your voices heard. If the government don't want to hear you, go to the media. The media is a very good platform for you to use in order to communicate your messages. Press conferences, online medias, newspapers, TVs, try to explore them as much as possible and communicate your message and your policies. Thank you, Frank.
Right, Odette, thank you. I've been given a few more minutes, so you must be providing excellent answers to these questions. My handler on WhatsApp says I can go until 10 after the hour. So we've got 8 minutes to go. What's next is one I'm going to put to all of you. I think, Odette, we can stay with you, and then Emeka, you can follow Odette, and Mugabe, you can close this question off. It's from Linda Whetstone, and she asks, you've spoken about what the global network can learn from Africa, but she would like to ask this: how can the global liberty movement help you? Funding will be high on the list, but what are the other things as well? Odette, we start with you, then we go to Emeka, and Mugabe, you're going to be third on this one. Odette.
Okay, if I get you right, the question is on funding. Like, how can think tanks...
What can the global network do to help you? Funding is one thing, but what else can it do to help you?
Yes, if the global network really join us in what we do, it's going to really help a lot. Yes, we need funding to be able to carry out our activities, but on the other hand, we need other organizations to join their forces with us to be able to communicate our messages, share what we do, bring the different activities, share their activities that they do with us, and so that we can blend this together. And one thing I want to really say here is that there's a multi-level approach that is very important when different institutions come together. This multi-level approach is very important for the economy to really advance and for us to equally build a national imperative of building a more inclusive and productive society. So this global network can really come together for us to work hand in glove, not only on the funding aspect, it would really help a lot. Thank you.
Emeka, on to you. What can the global network do to help you in Nigeria?
So just like Odette said, I believe the global liberty movement can help by also sharing the problems we go through in Africa, right? Because yes, funding is very important. We hardly get funding in this part because these ideas are kind of anti-government and people don't want to really invest in it. But then some of the challenges we share on social media, via mails, we expect that our partners all over the world should also help us amplify these issues taking place. For us in Africa, we talk about issues in the US, in the West, other parts of the world, but it seems like there is a kind of silence from our partners from outside, So I think our partners can help amplify the challenges we're facing, and that will also help to bring to the fore the work we are doing in Africa.
And Mugabe, what can be done to help you from outside?
Yeah, thank you. That's a very great question. Like any other panelists, what they have said, I would also agree that the global network can help. It has to help, like what some of them have been doing in building capacity. We have many leaders of think tanks and many libertarians who want to do great work, but they must be able to understand how to work with media, how to influence using media, and then also helping more for people to get literature so that they can understand the true ideas and the universal values that if they have worked somewhere, they can also work here. In Africa, we tend to have some challenge where people think when you talk about freedom, it's a Western idea. And freedom, anyway, it's a universal idea. So I believe that's one of the things the global network has to ensure. Another one, it's about making sure, like right now, what we are doing, that even within Africa, there are good examples we can share and know from each other. Many libertarians can think of a success story in Hong Kong, in Taiwan, and others. But also in Africa, we have some victories which our friends in the Libertarian Network have managed to achieve. So the global network may be able to provide like this platform where we can be able to share with other friends in Africa how they have managed to do it, right? What we are doing now, and that one will be great. Thank you.
Mugabe, thank you. Last question for this round. It's implicit in the chat. I'm going to put it to all of you. You've got about 45 seconds each to answer it. Then we're done for time. It's the importance of the media. How do you use the media in your own work, and what media advice do you have? We're going to start with Mugabe. We're then going to go to Emeka and Odette. You're going to have the final word for this, well, where I'm sitting afternoon. Mugabe, let's start with you.
Yeah, thank you very much. The media is very, very, very important. And as per our work as a think tank, we've been trying so much to work hard to see that one of our great partners in, first of all, propagating the idea, sending to the idea to people, but also reflecting the work we do in whichever part of the country we are, irrespective of the censoring of the media, media control by the state, which is increasing every day. But we have been managing, for example, the recent Liberty Camp we had. We brought almost every big media house to be part of it. And the young people were very much excited to see themselves speaking about these ideas on national TV. And guess what? Many young people could start calling in and ask these ideas. And today, as I speak, because of the media being able to throw the message to everywhere, they have been able to invite us. They are inviting us on different platforms, on TVs and radios to talk. But as I conclude, I'd like to say that in Uganda, yeah, we have a challenge of media being compromised so much in the government, but we cannot ignore it. It's in whatever capacity, we have to find a way how to work with media, because it saves us from sometime the great, we would spend a lot, and also being able to give our voice outside. Thank you.
Emeka, you've got a slightly shorter 45 seconds than Mugabe had. And then Odette, you're going to close for us.
Yes, basically we use social media, which is the fastest way of reaching out to youth in Nigeria. We also use traditional media. We use newspaper. We have partners in traditional media houses, radio. We also have a libertarian media partner, Ominira TV, which is a libertarian media house that promotes ideas for free society in Nigeria. So we engage them also. Unfortunately, recently, the Nigerian government has been trying to clamp down on social media, but they've not been succeeding. So,
Emeka, you've got a hard stop. I've got a taskmaster who's telling me what the time is. Thanks for that. Odette, you've got an even shorter 45 seconds. You've got about 20 seconds, then we're done.
All right, thank you very much. Just to add my voice to the other panelists, to use the media. First of all, as an organization, have your own media outlets, social media, your website, and then be very strategic with the kind of media you want to use for which kind of information. So be very strategic. And when you go to your radio stations, make sure you get the SFs and upload it on your website and social media. That's a strategy I would like to share.
Thank you very much. We're on time. We'll probably be on time. Thank you to all of you for joining us. Thanks to Atlas for hosting this. Have a great day and week, what's left of it. And we hope to talk to you soon again. From me, goodbye.
bye, everyone.
Okay, goodbye.
Bye.
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 Have a great day. Cheers.